What's your terrible roommate story? My friend Matt called screaming that his finger had been cut off, and his roommate Lucas wouldn't let him leave until he paid 3 months of back rent. I grabbed a bag of ice and raced to their house, knowing we had maybe 60 minutes to get that finger reattached before the tissue died forever. I burst through their front door to find Matt in the kitchen with his right hand wrapped in blood-soaked towels and his severed index finger in a Ziploc bag on the counter. His face was gray and he was swaying on his feet while he explained that Lucas had his car keys and had blocked the driveway with his van. Lucas was standing in the doorway to the garage with Matt's keys dangling from his fingers and this weird smile on his face. He said calmly, $3,000 is what he owes me. I told him Matt would die without immediate medical attention, but Lucas just shrugged and said, Matt should have thought about that before spending rent money on tools instead of paying what he owed. I grabbed the finger and packed it properly in ice, then tried to push past Lucas to my car, but he stepped outside and I saw he'd parked his van horizontally across the driveway, completely blocking my car in. Matt stumbled out holding his mutilated hand with blood still dripping through the towels, begging Lucas to move the van. Lucas laughed and said Matt needed to pay first, reminding us we only had an hour and suggested we better start calling people for money. I checked my phone and realized we'd already lost 10 minutes. I tried to call an ambulance, but Lucas warned that he'd tell them Matt had threatened him with a weapon, and the cops would spend an hour sorting it out. Matt was getting paler and I could see him going into shock from blood loss. I promised we'd get Lucas his money after the hospital, but he shook his head and pulled out his phone to start recording us. He demanded Matt say on camera that he'd pay him today. Matt was crying now with his whole body shaking as he admitted he didn't have the money. Lucas walked over to his van and let the air out of one tire, then another, saying that even if he moved it now, we weren't going anywhere. We'd lost 15 minutes already when I called an Uber, but Lucas stood in the street and waved them off when they arrived, telling the driver we were trying to skip out on substance debt. The driver sped away and Lucas came back laughing, telling us to try another one because this was fun for him. Matt collapsed on the driveway and I checked the towel to find way too much blood with the flesh already looking pale and wrong after 20 minutes gone. I tried to carry Matt to the neighbor's house, but Lucas followed us, shouting that Matt was a thief who'd stolen from him, making such a scene that the neighbors wouldn't open their doors. Matt whispered that his whole arm was going numb, not just the injured hand, and I knew nerve death was starting after 25 minutes. I ran back to the house thinking I could find Lucas's van keys, but he followed me and grabbed a hammer from the garage, warning that he'd take my finger too if I touched anything of his. When I tried calling 911 again, Lucas grabbed my phone and smashed it with the hammer, then did the same to Matt's phone while saying there would be no cops or ambulance until he got his money. 30 minutes had passed and Matt was barely conscious with his lips turning blue. Then Lucas suddenly grabbed Matt's injured hand and pressed hard on the wound, making Matt scream as fresh blood poured out. That's when Lucas said something that made my blood run cold. Remember when you told me you couldn't pay because you needed that table saw for work? Remember what I said would happen? And Matt started sobbing harder, begging him to stop. Lucas looked at me. He thought I was joking when I said I'd take a finger for every month he owed. My stomach dropped. 40 minutes were gone and the finger in the bag was turning dark, while Matt begged me not to leave him alone with Lucas. I tried to drag Matt toward the street, but Lucas grabbed the bloody towel and squeezed Matt's mutilated hand, causing Matt to scream so loud I thought he'd pass out from the pain. Lucas said he'd squeeze every time we tried to leave. 45 minutes had passed and Matt was unconscious with shallow breathing. I tried to lift him, but Lucas kicked his injured hand and Matt woke up screaming in agony. Lucas told me to let him die or pay him, saying it was my choice. 50 minutes were gone and the finger was definitely dead tissue. Lucas saw me checking my watch and laughed, asking if I wanted to try another Uber. At 55 minutes, Lucas stood over us, spinning the car keys on his finger and watching Matt fade. He promised to move the van after the hour was up, but Matt had stopped responding to my voice with his pulse weak and rapid. Lucas knelt down and whispered that Matt should have paid rent, then looked at me and offered to make me a deal to save him. We had maybe 3 minutes left before the hour was up and the finger would be completely unsalvageable. Matt was dying from blood loss, and Lucas was still smiling. Full story on the channel below.